Visualize rising from sleep into a life lacking connection, lacking electricity and devoid of any operational finance. How would you react if the nation's entire digital backbone crumbled down in just a split second? The disaster starts well before anybody spots an error. Hidden in the shadow of the World Wide Web, malware is already traveling, tucked inside standard data packets, camouflaged as system checks and also benign downloads. It moves quietly across processors, gateways and fiber optics that wrap the planet in a silent embrace. Months of hidden staging result in mere moments of action. As the initial warnings surface exactly at dawn, a finance application simply fails to open, showing no error code, only a loading icon never finishing. Suddenly, a second institution drops offline, followed by a third as huge numbers of transaction hubs fail. Cash machines show identical text saying "system down," while throughout the metropolises, street signals start to jam. Some get stuck on red, others blink out completely, while drivers sit in gridlocked rows of vehicles. They gaze at lifeless junctions where rhythm previously ruled, and high above them cell towers start dying. That's it, and that's all for today. So this place, wireless routers display their standard LEDs. Yet not one gadget can link up to the World Wide Web. Social platforms freeze without a reason. Inbox servers time out and journalism sites fail to display content. Users tap refresh over and over, assuming it has to be fleeting, a hiccup or provider lapse. But it isn't. This is the collision point, and it accelerates before the population even comprehends it. The assault has dug deeper into the country's arteries, as power grids malfunction without explosions or sound, nearly ceasing operations as malicious code overrides physical protocols, and sanitation facilities lose their logic boards. Now turbines stop and flow halts, while warnings go unnoticed, because notification tools rely on data webs. During the opening 30 minutes, 911 dispatch lines flood with panic as electricity cuts and cards fail. Hello, can you hear me? My smartphone is a brick, however. Can I? That is when bewilderment shifts into terror, because when data vanishes, the human brain occupies the void, fills with its own theories, usually far darker than reality, and this is merely the start. 12 hours into this digital siege, the populace is no longer facing a handful of weird bugs. They are now staring down a total technological coma, as random drops morph into a total disintegration. Without active signals, giant crossroads look like deserted movie sets, while autos sit crooked and idle there, their owners having long since exited to hunt for answers. In certain towns, workers start the trek, walking past lanes of dead automobiles, like they are traversing a solid stream. Navigation tools are worthless. Number charts, no pings, no routes, as freight haulers usually invisible arteries keeping shelves full. Cease motion, their paths depend on cloud inventories, smart fueling pumps and instant tracking software which are now gone. Truckers are marooned with goods they cannot drop off, having no guidance on where they must drive. Runways close immediately. Any aircraft on the tarmac stays put. Any jet in the clouds grounds instantly. Radar arrays have died. Digital links with air traffic control are shaky. Data streams gone black. Mayday, mayday, we are losing altitude. Thousands of travelers abruptly find themselves in hubs where everything lights, cooling and register terminals has quit. Then arrives the hush. Mobile carriers begin to collapse totally, where there were once billions of waves darting through the sky. Now there is essentially zero, as calls cut out and texts sit unsent. Urgent warnings no longer ping the phones that require them most, as massive metros transform into silos. with no accurate idea of what is occurring past their own block. Primal survival drives kick in. Households rush to the closest market, aiming to grab goods before the situation deteriorates further. This evening. Yet, without active card readers, the gates remain locked. A few shops try cash transactions. Depleting staples. Clean water, tinned meals, standard drugs, anger spikes. Queues wrap around corners, stagnant and not shrinking now. In residences, folks turn handles and see the flow fading, as filtration centers rely on computer brains. Currently, dead storage tanks start to empty. A handful of families fill basins, pans and jugs immediately. Most do not, still hoping the grid returns soon, but rescue teams remain active in title only. Fire crews cannot get GPS coordinates. SQ/UAD cars lose radio links and clinics suffer. As backup diesels start up, powering machines that can't be fixed or patched without network access 12 hours deep now. The nation is beyond confused. It is paralyzed, trapped between shock and a grim understanding of facts. What citizens do next will define every minute that ensues. By the 24th hour, the electronic void has evolved into something denser. A tangible weight resting on cities, hamlets and farmlands equally across land. For the first time in decades, people rise to a dawn lacking the silent tech making life easy. No pings, no feeds, no headlines, just doubt. As day one opens, the race for supplies starts open up. Not with violence or madness, but via the cold fact that stock is limited. Supermarkets pack fast, that's mine. With no digital money systems working, supervisors try to take paper bills, but rare is the person holding enough cash to purchase more than a day or two of food within 60 minutes flat. Racks holding hydration loaves. Grains, tins, and infant powder are picked clean. Lines spawn inside the rows. Then outside and quickly wind into the asphalt. Fuel stops encounter an even faster failure immediately today. Contemporary pumps need data links to release gas. Lacking those webs, most retailers cannot vend a drop. The rare vintage stations with mechanical levers draw massive lines, extending for miles. Fights ignite over drops. The gap between reaching home or staying stuck? Across the region, cities slip into disorder very quickly. Insulin infection drugs, heart pills, goods that need online tracking and checks, can no longer be traced to dispense vital prescriptions by hand. But inventory vanishes quicker than it can be sorted by staff. The police try to enforce calm, but precincts are swarmed. Without live comms, deputies cannot synchronize well. Support is doubtful, and command cannot direct patrols to growing danger zones. Each event becomes a silo. Every reaction a solo attempt. Theft starts not everywhere, but in clusters, typically where fear strikes earliest. A drugstore pane shatters. A supply shop is pried open. These initial crimes spread by voice quickly, stoking stress in areas that might otherwise stay peaceful. The border between panic and existence fades away. However, even in the rising mess, something else appears. Neighbors tap on adjacent gates to share goods. Thank you from split lamps, wax lights, filtered water, or the final sacks of beans in their cupboards now. Building foyers turn into crude command posts. Groups create tiny webs for collecting news and sharing help. Guarding frail tenants. Proving longevity relies less on what a home owns and more on whom trusted. And day one is merely the prologue. The tougher times are yet to arrive by the second. Sunrise, the event stops feeling fleeting. What started as a glitch, then a break, has now solidified into a stark and scary norm. 24 hours lacking volts or signals feels bearable, but 48 Hz it exposes the real brittleness of high-tech civilization. Medical centers hit their limit first as emergency motors code blue. They were never built to power whole buildings forever. Oil stocks dwindle, vital tech starts failing, unit by unit. Staff manually squeeze airbags to keep the sick breathing. Digital health files once the skeleton erased, leaving medics struggling with partial data. Trauma bays flood not just with wounds, but with fallout issues. Lung failures, sugar crashes, heart tension without cleaning. The clinical space itself turns toxic. Clean protocols fail, small sores get worse. The initial hints of fluid pollution show up as filtration sites, hobbled now. By cyber lockdown, they fail to keep chemical ratios. Regional leaders tell people to heat water immediately. But many houses lack energy. For them, even safe hydration becomes a prize. Federal aid is restricted. National bureaus try to organize help, but even the top agencies lean hard on networks now broken. Crisis command hubs switch to ancient ham radios, orbit phones, and paper orders, yet these are scarce. Once Plan B, they are now the sole ropes. Guard troops are sent out, but movement slowed. By gas droughts and cyber supply crashes, as formal news fails, gossip fills the gap in towns. Some think the dark is local, others guess it is planetary. Many hope for total grid repair. Within hours, even as sunset, the absence of proven truth becomes its own type of strain. Folks withdraw into dread guesses and theories. Cultural rules based on routines start to crack on avenues. Stress climbs with ATMs empty and vaults closed. Paper money becomes the only coin until bills lose their worth. Trading starts sells pure water. Fuel and drugs become more precious than gold. Unknowns view deal each other with a new math. Not hatred, but doubt. Every meeting becomes a gamble of faith. Inside residences, kin face another test. The mental cost kids ask when the web will fix now, Mom. Elders feign knowing more than they do. Hour by hour, the feeling of agency slides away fast. By the close of day 2, one fact becomes inescapable. This disaster is no longer about annoyance. It is about living when the light breaks on day 3. The country has crossed a threshold, now no longer responding to the fall. But existing within it, the stun has faded. The terror rooted what is left is adjusting. Financially, the ruin is historic. Robot trading dies, debt networks ice over. Wage transfers disappear, firms cannot buy stock. Clear sales talk, global cargo stops as mapping. Tax and dock tasks crash, jets stay down. Trade vanishes in towns. Standard life melts, waste piles up. Hydro utilities fail without cooling. Meal rot hastens without signals. Now rescue teams fail to place assets and grasp the depth of want. With sparse policing, blocks build. Guard teams to stop robbery and aid weak homes. What started as fear has moved into tribal cool. Tiny zones of order born from need. Households who planned ahead find themselves better set today. Those with purifiers, receivers, engines, paper saving, and pantry meals. Not because they predicted a data war, but because they grasped a core fact. Tech breaks those lacking such kits lean more heavily now on outsiders. Block captains or chance, yet even in this bleak setting, something else becomes plain here. Nations do not crumble all at once. They split, curve, and reform in odd ways. Some villages build analog talk hubs using amateur waves. Gyms turn into relief spots. Stations host drink handouts now. Tiny health tents rise where helpers give care. People's grit, though tested, continues to shove back gloom. But deep healing remains hard. Fixing a cyber skeleton after a synth strike is not a task. Hours or days, it may span months. Servers must be wiped, walled, swapped, and resealed fully. Energy webs must be physically tuned. Money vaults must fix ruined ledgers. Aqua and waste sites reset. For people, the lesson becomes sharp. Enduring a digital war starts way before the strike itself hits. It begins with analog talents mapping, wound care hand tool mastery, fluid cleaning and the skill needed. Plan eye to eye without screens. It starts with readiness food reserves, hydration plans spare lamps, offline talk gear, and it starts with the head. The power to keep cool when the known earth abruptly changes. As Day 3 concludes, the Republic stands at a junction construct. Adjust and study, or stay open to the next virtual hit. Because once the screens go dark, the real challenge is not attacks. Would you like to survive the silence? Then hit like and subscribe to Winds of Thought today.